Jaden Smith, the son of Will and Jada Pinkett Smith, was born into Hollywood royalty with every advantage imaginable. As the child of one of the most successful actors in the world, Jaden had access to opportunities most aspiring artists could only dream of. Yet, despite these privileges, his career has been marked by public ridicule, commercial disappointments, and an inability to escape his father's shadow. Today, we're examining how the once promising heir to the Smith entertainment empire became better known for his bizarre statements and behavior than for his artistic output. When Jaden first appeared on the scene, the world was ready to embrace him. His debut alongside his father in The Pursuit of Happiness was well received, showcasing a natural chemistry between father and son that translated beautifully on screen. This early success was followed by a starring role in the remake of The Karate Kid, which grossed over $350 million worldwide. At this point, Jaden's trajectory seemed clear. He was being positioned as the next big thing in Hollywood, following in his father's footsteps. But the turning point came with 2013's After Earth, a sci-fi film directed by M. Night Shyamalan and starring both Will and Jaden Smith. The film was a critical and commercial disaster, earning just $60 million domestically against its $130 million budget. In his memoir, Will Smith revealed how devastating this experience was for his son, writing, "Fans and the press were absolutely vicious. They said and printed things about Jaden that I refused to repeat. Jaden had faithfully done everything that I'd instructed him to do, and I had led him into the worst public mauling he'd ever experienced." The failure of After Earth was so traumatic that Jaden reportedly considered legal emancipation from his parents at just 15 years old. Though he ultimately decided against it, this marked a significant shift in his public persona. Rather than continuing to pursue mainstream acting roles, Jaden began reinventing himself as a philosopher-artist, sharing cryptic thoughts on social media that quickly became fodder for internet mockery. "How can mirrors be real if our eyes aren't real?" became perhaps his most infamous tweet, spawning countless memes and parodies. Other gems included, "If a bookstore never runs out of a certain book, does that mean that nobody reads it or everybody reads it? And school is the tool to brainwash the youth." These statements, coming from a wealthy teenager with no real-world struggles, struck many as the epitome of privileged pseudo-intellectualism. Tyler, the creator, a longtime friend of Jaden's, even called him out, responding to one of his tweets with, "You actually kind of sound like an idiot." But rather than taking this criticism to heart, Jaden doubled down on his eccentric behavior, showing up to Kanye West and Kim Kardashian's wedding in a white Batman costume and making increasingly bizarre fashion choices that seemed designed to provoke reaction rather than express any coherent artistic vision. As Jaden transitioned from acting to music, he carried this same air of unearned profundity. In interviews promoting his debut album Sire, he positioned himself not just as a musician, but as a visionary. "I'm trying to make like young adults cry in their room or have like psychedelic experiences listening to my music and have like a life-changing moment." He even created an alter ego named Sire, which he described as a modern Cupid, and a symbol of teenage heartbreak that was kind of like a myth, like a legend, like Zeus. This grandiose self-perception extended to his assessment of the music industry as a whole. In a 2014 interview with T Magazine, Jaden and his sister Willow claimed, "We don't think a lot of music out there is that cool, so we make our own music. We don't have any songs that we like to listen to on the PCH by any other artist." Statements like these, coming from teenagers with unlimited resources and industry connections, didn't endear them to the public or to struggling independent artists. Despite the mockery, Sear did achieve moderate commercial success, peaking at number 24 on the Billboard charts and eventually going gold. However, reviews were mixed at best. Music critic Anthony Fantano summed up the general sentiment in his review. "This record is fake deep. There's just too much filler, there's too much awful moments, there's too much completely drab, boring, average, run-of-the-mill, trendy, thoughtless, and middle-brow songs on this thing for it to truly be entertaining and worthy of the runtime." The follow-up album, Heiress, is spelled backward, performed even worse critically, with Pitchfork describing it as mostly a slog, and the sound of an artist with a blurry vision and too many resources at his disposal. This highlights one of the fundamental problems with Jaden's career. Failure doesn't cost him anything. Where his father had to hustle after his early album flopped, even facing bankruptcy and IRS troubles, Jaden has never had to face real consequences for his artistic missteps. This lack of stakes has seemingly prevented Jaden from developing the self-awareness necessary for artistic growth. In a now infamous clip that went viral in 2022, he complained about his peers. I look and I go around sometimes and I hang out with other people that are my age and they're just kind of on their phone taking selfies. And I'm just like, dude, can we talk about the political and economic state of the world right now? The internet had a field day with this statement, with commenters pointing out how out of touch and pretentious it sounded, coming from someone who had never experienced real world hardship. Even when Jaden has attempted to do genuinely good work, such as his involvement with the Water Box project providing clean water to Flint, Michigan, his public image has been too damaged for these efforts to significantly shift perception. The public has largely made up its mind about who Jaden Smith is, the weird, privileged kid of Will Smith who thinks he's deeper than he actually is. The situation has only worsened in recent years due to the very public drama surrounding his parents. The entanglement revelation, where Jada Pinkett Smith admitted to a relationship with singer August Alsina during a separation from Will, became a media sensation that tarnished the family's once pristine image. Then came the infamous Oscars slap, where Will Smith struck Chris Rock on stage over a joke about Jada's alopecia, further cementing the public perception of dysfunction within the Smith family. According to sources close to the family, the kids feel bad for their dad. With all the recent headlines about their parents, they know he has been going through a lot lately, and this isn't helping. They wish some of their family's private matters remained private. But beyond the emotional impact, these scandals have had professional consequences for the entire Smith family, reducing them from Hollywood royalty to tabloid fodder. For Jaden specifically, this family drama has overshadowed his artistic output entirely. His recent EP CTV3, Day Trippers Edition, and singles like Cabin Fever have received minimal attention compared to news about his dating life or his parents' marriage. When he does make headlines now, it's usually for stunts like wearing a castle-shaped headpiece to the Grammys, rather than for his music. The tragedy of Jaden Smith's career is that there might actually be talent beneath all the pretension. There are moments in his music and acting where genuine creativity shines through, but he's been so thoroughly defined by his worst moments and most cringeworthy statements that it's nearly impossible for the public to view him objectively. Every new project is filtered through the lens of Will Smith's weird kid, rather than judged on its own merits. In his most recent interviews, there are signs that Jaden might be maturing and developing more self-awareness. He's spoken about writing from personal experience rather than trying to create a persona, admitting that his recent music was inspired by genuine sadness following a breakup. I was sad, honestly, and I wanted to share that, he explained, showing a vulnerability that's been absent from his previous, more grandiose statements. But the question remains, is it too late? Has Jaden Smith already squandered the enormous advantages he was born with through years of bizarre behavior and pretentious statements? Can he ever escape the shadow of his father and the reputation he's built for himself? The path forward for Jaden isn't impossible, but it would require a level of humility and self-awareness that he hasn't consistently demonstrated. He would need to acknowledge his privileges, stop positioning himself as a misunderstood genius, and let his work speak for itself rather than constantly telling people how profound it is. Most importantly, he would need to connect with audiences on a genuine level rather than from the remove of someone who's never had to struggle. Until then, Jaden Smith will likely remain what he is now. A cautionary tale about how even the most privileged starting point can't guarantee success if it's not accompanied by self-awareness, humility, and a willingness to learn from mistakes. He's the Nepo baby who couldn't make it, not because he lacked opportunities, but because he never understood that respect and admiration can't be inherited. they have to be earned. As we look at the trajectory of Jaden's career, it's worth considering what success actually means. By conventional metrics, album sales, critical acclaim, cultural impact, Jaden hasn't achieved what his early opportunities might have suggested. But perhaps there's still time for him to redefine what success means on his own terms, away from the expectations placed on him as Will Smith's son. For now, though, Jaden Smith remains trapped in a prison of his own making, too privileged to be relatable, too self serious to be likable, and too defined by his past to easily reinvent himself. It's a cautionary tale about how even the most golden of opportunities can be squandered when not approached with the right mindset. In Hollywood, being born on third base doesn't guarantee you'll make it home. Sometimes it just means you have further to fall.